Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will call the Planning and Development Committee meeting to order at 6 o'clock. We have an agenda that has been circulated. There are some changes to the agenda right off the top. So if committee wishes to make note that staff report 11.3 with regard to civic addressing has been deferred. The staff feel that they would like to perhaps engage and circulate the affected people in a little bit more better manner. So that will be deferred for 1 month and show up on our agenda next month. I have a couple other recommended changes just to make the meeting perhaps run a little bit smoother. And that's with regard, first of all, to the delegation. If you read the agenda, the delegation is here to talk about unassumed subdivisions. And if you look at the staff reports, there are 2 reports, one responding directly to unassumed subdivisions that the delegation is going to be talking about. So what I would recommend, if the committee is in favor of this, and I've talked to the delegation and she's agreeable to this, to defer the delegation to the just prior to the staff reports so that the topics can be talked about in proximity to each other. And the other change, talking with staff just before the meeting, staff report 11.1 and 11.2, they feel that if they could reverse those to put 11.2 before 11.1, that makes the discussion and the information provided on unassumed subdivisions a little bit easier to manage. Are there any other changes to the agenda that, are there any additions to the agenda? Would someone hopefully move the agenda as amended? Councillor Oakley, seconded by Mayor Bailey. Everybody clear on that? All those in favor? Motion's carried. There is one other item just before I proceed with the agenda, is that in talking with the delegation, you've probably seen the slide deck. It's going to be kind of tight for the presentation to be made in 10 minutes. So I perhaps since we deferred her later in the evening, I'm hoping that council or committee will allow a little bit of latitude with the time. And if I could have perhaps just a motion to waive that particular requirement and add a little bit of time to the delegation, and I think that would be appreciated. And that's moved by Councillor Oakley, seconded by Councillor Kyle. All those in favor? That motion is carried. We'll see how that goes. It might not take 10 minutes, but usually we have 10 minutes and then we call it off, but we'll give you the benefit of the doubt and let you have a few more minutes. Okay. That deals with the, well, I should make mention that, and I've already started to ignore them, Councillor Bell and Councillor Garneau are in attendance in the little squares up in the corner. And I'm going to ask staff to keep reminding me to keep my eyes on them so that they, if they have their hand up, that I can see them. If not, feel free to interject and then I can make sure that you get your comments heard. Okay, there is a provision for the declaration of pecuniary interest. Any committee member wish to declare an interest at this time. If an interest arises during the meeting, make it known and we will act accordingly. Again, the delegation has been deferred just before the staff reports, and that takes us to the adoption of the minutes from previous meetings, and the minutes of July 11th are circulated. Moved by Councillor Coleman, seconded by Councillor Pierce. Are there any errors or omissions? Any comments? All those in favor of adopting the minutes? That motion is carried unanimously. There is no business arising from the minutes. Anyone have anything? Okay, then let's proceed to the public hearings pursuant to our telecommunications tower protocol. And just for everyone's information, these are public hearings to collect information. No decision on anything are going to be made at this time. And if you don't know, you should know that the county makes recommendations, but they are not the approval authority. We can make recommendations to the approval authority, but we don't say yes or no. That's up to the CRTC, I believe. So let's begin with 7.1, and that's a hearing on a telecommunications tower proposal for 9 Main Street in St. George. And our planner will present the information, and I'll declare the public hearing open and ask the planner to proceed.
Good evening. I am presenting telecommunication tower application C2123HH for 9 Main Street North in St. George. Staff are providing information to be received that Shared Tower Inc. has completed consultation with the County of Brant and the public, and that telecommunication tower as proposed at 9 Main Street North is not in accordance with the preferred location guidelines of the Communication Tower and Communication Antenna Preferred Location Protocol. The subject lands are located south of Church Avenue, east of Snowball Street, and west of Main Street North. The subject lands have a frontage of approximately 30 meters and a lot area of approximately 0.3 hectares. The subject lands are located within Core Area Commercial Zone, which contain the St. George Royal Canadian Legion. The subject lands are designated Core Area and zoned Core Area Commercial C4 in the Zoning Bylaw 6116. The applicant is proposing to establish a 25-meter tall monopole telecommunications structure situated within a locked and electronically monitored mechanical equipment shelter. As part of the application, the agent has provided a detailed site selection report and a site plan identifying the proposed tower location and a letter of concurrence request. The site has been reviewed in accordance with the 2020 County of Brant Tower Protocol for the proposed tower location. The preferred setback is 3 times the tower's height, which is 70 meters. The nearest adjacent residential dwelling is 50 meters from the proposed tower. No natural heritage features are located within the county's preferred setback distance of 120 meters. No trees or vegetation are proposed to be removed. The next steps for this application is to take information raised in this meeting and reflect between the application's agent and planning staff. A report will be created to be presented as a formal recommendation to be received by council. There will be formal public notices that will be sent to residents who are within 500 meters circulation radius. To conclude, the application has completed the required public consultation and is currently going through the consultation with the County of Brant. The application is identified as not in keeping with the preferred location guidelines as outlined in the Communication Tower Preferred Location Protocol. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Committee members, do you have any questions of the planner with regard to the proposal at this time? Again, questions of clarification. Seeing none, is the applicant here and wish to elaborate on the proposal?
I was just going to ask, just quickly, the change from the 70 meters that we are standard, okay,
Could you speak into the microphone so everybody can hear you?
Okay, they're deviating it down to 50 meters, okay. My understanding, though, for basic health concerns, there isn't an issue. Would that be true?
I'm going to defer that to the applicant.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Not quite yet, I guess. Yeah.
You'll get your opportunity soon. Are there any other questions of the committee to the planner before I ask the applicant to come forward to elaborate and perhaps answer the question? Seeing none, I'd ask the planner to just step back. And is the applicant here? Now's your chance.
Would you like me to come up, or?
If you can just come to the podium and identify yourself, and then you have the opportunity to elaborate on the proposal.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. In terms of the required setbacks under the federal regulation, there is not a required setback that we see within residential, commercial, or industrial areas. However, with the advancing technology, with 5G, with a larger population being located in a certain area, the infrastructure needs to be located closer to the user in order to be able to provide the necessary coverage.
If you can elaborate perhaps on your proposal?
Elaborate on the proposal itself. So, as I mentioned, the purpose of the tower is to be able to provide the necessary coverage to the area of St. George. With the increase of residents, businesses utilizing the cellular network, it's important to understand that further infrastructure is required in order to support that and provide the advanced technology. Shared tower, we build infrastructure that encourages co-location. So the goal of shared tower is to have multiple carriers and providers, whether it be internet or in some instances municipal equipment as well, be co-located on the tower itself so that there's not a further need for additional infrastructure for each carrier creating or building their own towers.
Are there any questions, committee members, to the applicant? Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. So I'm curious if you could just help us understand why this location was chosen when, if you think about it, you know, not even a kilometer to the north, it's actually higher elevation, which would suggest more coverage.
So some of the locations that were explored further to the north, including the water tower, were discouraged when the site acquisition specialists had approached the county. And finding a willing landlord is a big portion of the site selection. Of course, we might have an ideal site that is placed in an ideal location. However, if the landlord themselves are not willing to proceed with a lease or having a tower on their property, then we need to look at the sites that are and still meet the carrier coverage requirements.
Are there any other questions? I see no further question from the committee. If you just step aside, and I'm going to ask the members of the public if they wish to comment on the proposal, and if there are questions or whatever, you do have the opportunity to come back and respond before we conclude the hearing. And that having been said, anyone in the audience, this is your opportunity to make comment on this proposal, the proposal on the telecommunications tower in St. George. I will make note that we did receive some written correspondence late, and that has been added to the file, and members of the committee have had the opportunity to see that. Anyone wish to make comment on this application? And by convention, I asked 3 times, and if there are no comments after 3 times, I get to thank the presenter for presenting the application and thank the planner for presenting the information. And I'm at the point where I can conclude the public hearing, and I will declare the public hearing closed. Just to understand, this application will go back to staff, consolidated with the on the file, and brought forward at a later date if the committee wishes to move a resolution to do just that. And it's moved by Councillor Miller and seconded by Councillor Oakley that the presentation be received, the information consolidated, and brought forward at a later date. Any final questions? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Passed unanimously. And that concludes the public hearing on 7.1 telecommunications tower in St. George. And that takes us to the next application, 7.2, which will be the public hearing on the telecommunications tower on Hatchley Road. And I will declare the public hearing on that application open and ask the planner to introduce that application to the committee and members of the public.
I am presenting telecommunication tower application CT2 23HH for 45 Hatchley Road. Staff are providing information to be received that Forbes Bros Inc. has completed consultation with the County of Brant and the public, and that the telecommunication tower as proposed at 45 Hatchley Road is in accordance with the preferred location guidelines of the Communication Tower and Communication Antenna Preferred Location Protocol. The subject lands are located south of Hatchley Road and lying between West Quarter Town Line Road and Middle Town Line Road. The subject lands have a frontage of approximately 605 meters and a lot area of approximately 40 hectares. The subject lands are located within the agricultural zone, which contain the agricultural operations in the surrounding area. The subject lands are designated agriculture and natural heritage in the zoning bylaw 6116 and in the official plan. The applicant is proposing to establish a 45-meter tall self-support telecommunication tower situated within a 3-meter by 3-meter area. As part of the application, the agent has provided a detailed site selection report and a site plan identifying the proposed tower location and a letter of concurrence request. The site has been reviewed in accordance with the 2020 County of Brant Tower Protocol for the proposed tower location. The preferred setback is 3 times the tower height, which is 135 meters. The nearest adjacent residential dwelling is 270 meters from the proposed tower. There was an error on the current slide showing 120 meters instead of 135 meters. There are still no natural heritage features or sensitive land uses that are located within the county's preferred setback distance of 135 meters. No trees or vegetation are proposed to be removed. The next steps for this application is to take information raised in the meeting and reflect between the application's agent and planning staff. A report will be written to be presented as a formal recommendation to be received by council. There will be formal public notices that will be sent to residents who are within 500-meter circulation radius. To conclude, the application has completed the required public consultation and is currently going through the consultation with the County of Brant. The application is identified as in keeping with the preferred location guidelines as outlined in the Communication Tower Preferred Location Protocol. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Committee members, do you have any questions? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the planner. Can you just confirm that that August 10th public information session never happened because there was nobody signed up for it other than me?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. There was nobody that signed up except for myself and yourself.
And I did not see any comments in our package. So
No, I didn't either.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is the applicant here to speak to this application?
Yes, I'm available online.
Yeah, I heard somebody say something, but I'm not sure who.
This is Jacqueline Johnson. I'm a representative of FB Connect, Forbes Bros, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, and you're online, and I see the name, but I don't see the picture. So,
Yes, that's correct.
did you want to elaborate any further on the application?
No, I have no further information to add.
Let's see if the committee has any questions through me to you. And I don't know whether you can see that, Jacqueline, but there are no questions. So I would thank you for attending briefly. And no questions, then I'll proceed to ask members of the audience or the gallery if they have any questions with regard to the proposal. I see the property owners are here, but I see no questions. So that makes it easy. I will thank the presenter, thank the staff for doing the presentation, and declare the public hearing on the tower on Hatchley Road closed. And ask the committee how they wish to deal with this. Councillor Pierce.
Move to receive, Mr. Chair.
Second by Councillor Coleman. Are there any questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried unanimously as well. And that concludes the public hearings with regard to telecommunications tower. And it's a rarity, but there are no public hearings pursuant to the Planning Act scheduled for this evening. And obviously then there are no public hearings to consider staff recommendations either. And along the same vein, there are no consent items to deal with. And that takes us to the delegation. And if Andrea would make her way forward, I'll just go over some of the rules. And that is usually you have 10 minutes. We have graciously given you a few more minutes to your presentation. So hopefully you won't take advantage of that. And I'll give you a few minutes to get set up. And just, I think you were prepped on how to speak into the microphone and you can adjust the podium, etc. And you do have a slide deck. Hopefully the counselors online can see that when it comes up. And as soon as you're ready, you can indicate to me and then I'll start the clock. Committee members will probably recall at our last planning committee meeting, I had requested a report on unassumed subdivisions as a result of getting an email from Andrea, and we scheduled the staff agreed to present a report on unassumed subdivisions. Subsequent to that, Andrea forwarded a letter to council, and that letter was received, and the council asked staff to do a report on her letter. So we have those two reports this evening, and to augment that, those two reports, Andrea is making a presentation as well. So the topic of the day is unassumed subdivisions, and Andrea is going to talk about her specific case.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Bowden. It's nice being here tonight. I just wanted to mention that there was a little bit of a mix-up with deadline times and dates. Briar and I guess, miscommunicated. There was some deadlines that weren't, I guess, clear.
I'm just going to interrupt a little. Andrea, if you could just speak loud and
Sure.
clear, I think
Sorry,
people are having a hard time hearing you.
Yep.
Is the microphone on?
Yep.
Okay, good. Sorry.
So the actual presentation is not going to be the one that I had submitted first. There are going to be numerous changes, so hopefully everyone can follow along. So I'm representing the homeowners of Royal Highland Estates. I have about 27 of them, and they have given me permission to speak on their behalf. A document was already provided to the county with the names and the contact homeowners. This screen just keeps going faster, sorry. We are all homeowners impacted by living in the still unassumed subdivision of Royal Highland Estates. Everyone, county and developer, are aware of our need for resolution and assumption after almost 10 long years. We simply want the developer to complete all deficiencies to county standards and for the county of Brant to inspect in a timely manner and finally assume us so that we may receive all municipal services that we are entitled in exchange for our municipal taxes. Here's a map of the area of Highland Estates. This is an aerial view of Royal Highland Estates, which is what I'm referring to, within the pre-existing Highland Estates. The 2008 subdivision agreement was drafted, initiated, and enforced by Brant County. According to our specific subdivision agreement, the assumption by the municipality occurs when the developer has met all of the requirements for final acceptance. I really simplified this breakdown of steps that were supposed to occur, so here they are. First interim certificate was issued December 19th, 2008. A substantial credit was given back to the developer, even though, and you'll see this later in Pam's report, that there was a deficiency back then and it was only inspected for in 2023. From my understanding of this, everything was supposed to be completed for that first interim certificate, and then it would move on to the next phase, which is the second interim certificate, which was issued. I'm sorry, I don't have the dates on that. The third interim or final completion certificate issued was in 2014, and this is kind of where we've been at a standstill since then. So the agreement states that within 90 days after submission, the county engineer shall issue final acceptance or issue a statement of deficiencies to be rectified by the developer. So I mean, again, we're stuck here. If that was to continue, the county would issue a certificate of final acceptance, and then within 60 days, the county would enact a bylaw assuming the subdivision. So for our basic municipal, for our taxes, we would actually like basic municipal services. So just as part of awareness, we are not receiving those. The definition for that, municipal services or city services, refer to basic services that residents of a city expect the city government to provide in exchange for the taxes which citizens pay. Basic city services may include sanitation, water, streets, fire department, health department issues, and transportation. We, the homeowners in Royal Highland Estates, have paid full residential tax rates to the County of Brant that have mounted to over $2.5 million since 2008. But since we are still unassumed, we are exempt, denied, or delayed from receiving all municipal services that we are entitled. This is unduly burdensome to us, the homeowners. So Brant County has denied, delayed, or deemed that we are not eligible for basic municipal services. These are some of the ones that are priority safety concerns to us. So in regards to streets, we've been refused to service, replace, relamp existing street lights to address dark spots and non-working lights. And I have a bunch of slides for reference that are at the end. Also streets, we are not eligible to relamp to upgraded LED street lighting. As per current county development standards documents 2018 and Brant Municipal Enterprises Initiative. Streets and health, we were denied street cleaning. We have numerous garbage truck leaks, broken glass that's left on the road after the garbage trucks leave. Streets and transportation, according to section 32 of the subdivision agreement, snow clearing. County may, but under no obligation to remove at subdivisor's expense, snow from the roads. I did speak to the subdivider, and he's saying that he's not paying for that, so that we must be under actual Brant County snow removal. So not sure about that. Maybe somebody can say that afterwards, but who will remove snow in a timely and proper manner when the subdivider's security deposit is used up and we're still unassumed? So again, Pam's report states county maintenance, so I just wanted to double check on that. Streets and health, who's responsible for cutting the grass on the road allowances or the drainage ditches? It's fairly long, and residents currently are cutting those. Health, pond regulations and inspections are not enforced. We have phragmites, which is an invasive species. We have been denied West Nile testing by the health unit. In regards to fire cisterns, they were installed prior to 2014, and the fire trucks were only there August 8th to inspect. Water, why is well testing being brought up in 2023? I'd like to know why was proper procedure, testing, and inspection not completed prior to issuing a developer the occupancy permits. And the years may be wrong. It's approximately 2009, 2010 timeframe. There's some other concerns that we do have. We've been denied by the county to replace dead trees on the boulevard. We were deemed not eligible for upgrading the Canada Post mailbox with more package space. We were delayed locates for fiber internet services on the road allowance and driveway gates. Rogers has come to our subdivision, and they are actually inquiring to put in also fiber internet services. So I'm wondering how that will go as well. And we were denied permits for driveway apron maintenance as well. Enforcement. The existing agreement and new standards document in September 2008, the Brant County drafted and entered into an existing subdivision agreement, which is a legal contract consisting of 84 pages. It outlines the standards and the procedures for the developer for Royal Highland Estates. In November 2018, Brant County introduced a new development and engineering standards document, which is 258 pages to address blanket subdivision agreement standards and procedures. This can all be found on Brant County's website. So according to the 2008 agreement where I live, the street lighting was constructed and installed prior to 2014. The developer had to submit lighting drawings, plans, light levels for county approval. So my question is, which servicing standards were required by county engineer then that seems to have changed now? Since as of August 18th, the developer was asked to resubmit a lighting audit and retain Brant Municipal Enterprises to do so. Job Inc. showed up on September 5th, and now on September 11th, which was yesterday, there may be a concern with some county approved street poles, vendor street poles. The quote I have is, "I'm in consultation with the pole manufacturer regarding certain structural matters to seek their expert opinion on resolution." So due to continued reporting of safety concerns and burnt out lights in an assumed and unassumed subdivision, which standard does the county fall back on now? Is it in regards to the 2008 County Engineer Servicing Standards, the Illuminating Engineering Society? And I'm referencing that because on August 2nd, I was emailed that lighting meets safety standards according to IES standards. But a lighting analysis was completed actually only after that. It was submitted it was submitted August 16th and presented to Brant County in the August 16th meeting. And now September 5th, a new lighting audit was procured by the developer. Or does it follow the 2018 Brant County Development and Engineering Standards? Pond. We have a stormwater management pond at the end of our road. In the agreement, there was required a full-time supervisor, activity log, regular basis inspections, especially after storm events. If the subdivision agreement procedures were followed and enforced and a plan approved and implemented, how did the pond and fragmites get to this point in 2023? There was a deficiency list and deadlines, supposedly. Section 47.2 was a clear, concise list of deficiencies provided by the county engineer to the developer in 2014 within 90 days of final completion certificate. Section 66, time shall be of the essence. Was a deadline ever imposed to the developer for rectification of deficiencies or follow-up timelines and inspection dates? So here's some pictures of our street and our street lighting. For us, safety is a priority. There's a lot of people that walk around in our neighborhood. I just want to know, does this look safe and uniform to you? I was told that from a safety perspective that it does follow the IES current levels and they're in compliance. Yeah, as you can see for yourself, there are dark spots and there's glare, and I believe it is unsafe as it is right now. So I'm pushing for an LED an LED project. These are the new solar lights with battery backup that are on the street behind us. So as you can see, these are very dark. These were just put up and tested, and you can barely see. I just want to know also what levels did the light meter register in these final testing reports. So for the energy efficient LED lighting, this is what I'm actually requesting. So I'm asking the county to actually do this as per the current Brant Municipal Enterprise LED Conversion Project Initiative and the current 2018 Brant County Engineering Standards for Subdivisions document. I understand because we're unassumed that this maybe can't be done right now, but after assumption, I would like to be put on a list that this is something that maybe somebody would look at for us. Benefits, uniform lighting, energy efficient, electrical savings from 75% to 90%, discourages crime. We've had 3 break-ins in the last few months alone in our neighborhood. This would promote safety, reduces glare, conforms to nation's drive for clean energy. As you can see, the before and after pictures. The before is what we have right now, incandescent, and the after are the LED lights. And I do have to go back one slide here. We do not want solar lights. I don't know if anybody will ask us or not, but when the sun goes down, this is what we get at about 11:30 at night. So as solar lights in your backyard, at the beginning when they go on, it's great. They're bright. After a few hours, they dim. So this is about 11:30 with 2 days of cloud cover. So it's gonna be like on the second day. After about 10 years after a final completion certificate was issued in 2014, someone needs to be held accountable. Again, to reiterate my official July 25th communication to the county as to why I'm here, I would like our subdivision to be assumed. I would like all of the agreements to be enforced using procedures already in place and written by Brant County. I would like finite deadlines for all future contracts and subdivision agreements. I'm told that 3 years plus it can be extended indefinitely. To me, that's still a gray area, and Brant County would not have to maintain approximately 35 subdivisions. As per Brant County Tax Department, I spoke to Christine, and she did confirm that there's no current legislation at Brant County level. So I would ask you to please introduce a new reduced tax rate bylaw for residential homeowners living in unassumed subdivisions, as I feel we're unduly burdened. So unduly burdensome, this is the actual definition. This is not made up by me, this is the Ontario government. The Ontario Municipal Act uses the word unduly burdensome as a valid reason for a municipality to reduce tax rates. It is a term that can have different meanings depending on the context. It can mean a significant financial hardship, adverse effect, or a restriction that is too burdensome or restrictive of one's fundamental rights. Unduly burdensome can be a basis for challenging the validity or enforceability of a law, regulation, or contract. To prove unduly burdensome when paying for something that you are not receiving, you may need to provide sufficient detail in terms of time, money, and procedure. I believe I've proven that by paying full tax rates in an unassumed subdivision was and is unduly burdensome to us, the homeowners. I have all kinds of reference documents for the past 10 years of all the time we've spent trying to get basic municipal service and to resolve the issue of assumption. Also, money that we have paid to the county in terms of full taxes, over $2.5 million, and procedure. In regards to the subdivision agreement, obviously there was an oversight at that time in writing the agreement with no deadlines imposed, possible indefinite limbo state of being unassumed, causing adverse effects on us, the homeowners. I've already gone through the lighting, the fire cisterns, the storm management pond, which ultimately restricts our fundamental rights to health, safety, and basic services. So there's two actual townships, I guess, or cities that already have this. The town of Oakville has passed a bylaw such as this, and also the city of Burlington, according to 365-1. So I'm just reiterating my previous communication from July 2023. I would like you to please consider introducing a new Brant County bylaw under Section 365, which deals specifically with reducing tax rates, specifically in residential unassumed neighborhoods. As per the Ontario Municipal Act 2001, subsection 365, this authorizes a local municipality to pass a bylaw to provide for the cancellation, reduction, or refund of taxes for eligible property owners whose taxes are considered by council to be unduly burdensome as defined in the bylaw. So I am requesting that a new bylaw be recommended and defined to credit or reduce the residential tax rates for homeowners living specifically in unassumed subdivisions in Brant County, whom are stuck in the middle of a subdivision agreement dispute through no fault of their own, and we are considered unduly burdened doing so. So on slide 11, those were the list of municipal services that we've already gone through that we are not receiving. The new tax rate would stay in effect for homeowners until which time municipalities and developers would decide to complete a subdivision to satisfaction, and the new rate would compensate for some of the loss of our fundamental rights of health, safety, and basic municipal services. There are 2 staff reports at the end, and all of my correspondence and communication with different Brant County committees were referred to these staff reports. So what I've done actually is start again and do a new presentation at the end, and that's why I'd requested more time. The staff reports came to me after I submitted my initial report. And yeah, you'll see that I've got all kinds of reference documents, all kinds of emails for the last 10 years, basic necessity internet. This was delayed 2 months, which would be considered unduly burdensome. 2 months delay again for municipal access and locates. This was again for our internet services. This is 4 years later for lighting upgrades. And I mentioned this previously as well, that the solar project was done prior, or I'm sorry, onto the street behind us. And again, we're not eligible for any kind of upgrade at all. These are all just like emails and proof, I guess. What I did was I went through a lot of case studies, I guess, for legal stuff. I know we're not in the court of law. However, there are certain things that you need to prove for unduly burdened, and I believe I have all kinds of references to prove that. Another one is the Brant County locates. This is an email that because we were unassumed, we couldn't get driveway gates installed until everything was resolved. These are just emails. Please look through them when you have a chance, I guess, because if I read every single one of them, this is going to be an hour, and I'm sure you guys don't want to sit here and listen to us. Snow removal. Brant County is aware of my concerns. Grass and snow are not being maintained properly. The grass is not at all. The residents are looking after this themselves. Also the snow. The clearing of the snow, whether that be by a Brant County contractor and who it's billed to, I have no idea. And frankly, it doesn't really matter. I just want it done. We're always last to have snow removal, and we get one pass down the middle of the road. So our street is 29 feet wide, and we get one pass in the middle, and I guess it's up to the residents to clear the rest so that we can get out to Highland. We're talking two streets, that's all we're talking. So again, I consider that unduly burdensome. There's an example from one of the homeowners that wrote into Brant County as well to complain. Street cleaning, this was taken this morning. These are stains on the road from Thursday's garbage pickup. So pretty well every Thursday the garbage guy comes, they compact the garbage in front of our yard, and in the summertime, as you can imagine, the smell that comes out of here is pretty bad. So I have to put dish soap on it. We have to sweep every couple of weeks because there's always little fragments of glass that are left over. I do consider that unduly burdensome as well. Brant County Tax Department emails, these are just references to Christine and I speaking about unassumed subdivisions. 2 staff reports and recommendations. I mentioned this already, that my presentation was submitted 2 days prior to receiving the staff reports, so then I've started responding at this point. So in response to staff reports and recommendations, I respectfully disagree with the recommendations put forth and hope the committee does as well for the greater good of the residents. I'm imploring the committee members to empathize with the homeowners of Royal Highland Estates and 34 other unassumed subdivisions that may become incomplete legacy subdivisions with no lapsing dates. I'm asking you to recognize that we have been unduly burdened by being unassumed for 15 years since 2008 agreement was drafted and signed, and almost 10 years after submission of final approval certificate, and this, I'm told, could last indefinitely. Please review my data, examples, and references supporting my disagreement in the recommendations and analysis. This is all of the information from the Planning and Development Committee report. The vision and strategic priorities, which it references, my response is the Brant County strategic plan priority. I share these priorities and values. especially effective communication, transparency, respectfulness, safety, accountability, live and play. Environmental impacts. Pam mentions that the subdivision agreement enforces environmental responsibility. My response is, in 2023, this will be the fourth time that the developer will address the phragmites in the example. 2016, 2019, 2020, 2023. The info that I was given was that in one instance, inspection by Brant County was done approximately 5 months after rectification due to county's time and staff restraints. When procedures outlined in the plan were not followed by the county, this allowed the phragmites to flourish again and again over time. Environmental responsibility and possible health impacts. I'd like to know who is responsible to enforce environmental impacts when residents were concerned of a high concentration of mosquito larvae in our pond and requested testing for West Nile. There's 2 instances that were in the news. One was in 2021 for positive testing at the St. George Pond, and there was another one very recent, July 24th, in the Brantford Pond that were found positive. I believe these are unduly burdened by adverse effects. So supposedly, somebody monitors and controls West Nile, the West Nile virus. This is supposed to be the health unit, I guess, and they monitor weekly. But because we are unassumed, they refuse to do this for us. Economic impacts. The process of assuming a complete subdivision ensures County of Brant economic responsibility and ensuring that the county and current taxpayers are not fiscally responsible. This, I'm reading from the Planning and Development Committee report, and my response is, as per the subdivision agreement, the taxpayers were never to be held responsible or unduly burdened financially to complete development conditions that the county did not enforce all along. As part of the enforcement, there are sections in the agreement regarding economic impacts. If the county felt this way, that the developer was found in breach of contract, according to section 43, use the security funds, which amount right now to $36,685. If there's a deficiency, then it would be payable by the subdivider forthwith upon demand, plus an administration fee.
Andrea, I'm just going to interrupt a little bit. We are exceeding the time frame quite a bit, so if you can sum up.
Again, the Planning and Development Committee report, Pam's just talking about the different certifications, and my response is that the first interim was granted in 2008 and substantial credits were given back to the developer in 2009. The site inspection of the storm sewers by the county was only completed in 2023, and the developer immediately remediated the deficiency in 2023. Also, due to the amount of time passed since last inspections, works related to the third interim credits were already given in 2014. Brant County inspections were done in 2023. Street lights completed prior to 2014. And again, we're just doing another light audit right now. Cracked ceiling was found as a deficiency. Developer rectified that on August 29th of this year, but it still needs to be inspected by the county. Lot grading certification and built drawings. I reached out to the developer, and these were never conveyed to him as being outstanding. I guess they are now, I'm not sure. As part of the procedure, weren't these submitted at various times of certification? It should be noted that the county is currently holding $36,685 in securities, and there's no lapsing date with the Royal Highland Estates. My response to that is, county is still holding securities, but why is this relevant when the developer is currently paying to rectify all deficiencies out of pocket through his consultant Stantec? Even all current deficiencies are more than covered by the security deposit if Brant County was to assume immediately, as per quoted prices. There's no lapsing date. Communicating a formal list of all outstanding deficiencies and onwards with routine inspections of works by county would have sped up the completion of development conditions. At this time, in 2023, the developer has expressed a commitment to complete all deficiencies by end of 2023. This goes into the tax rates, which I've kind of already gone through. I have examples, We are not currently receiving all county services. Homeowners are being burdened. We are not receiving basic services. Security deposit again. Each interim certificate level follows the same procedures as per the agreement. County says insufficient securities to complete. So what is the coded value of remaining deficiencies, uncompleted part as per county's value? These were the stages. Section 31, partial release of security. Using quoted values of uncompleted, red lines as built submitted. Applications for second interim cannot be completed until first completion certificate works have been accepted. So also the committee report states completion of subdivision in a few months. My response is from 2014 to 2019, subdivision is almost assumed. In 2019, assumption was to be brought up at the next committee meeting, September 2019. August 2022, no permits are being issued and no changes currently allowed as final inspections are presently occurring for assumption. September 2023, we're asked to wait another few months. So thank you very much. Brant County has the power to make positive changes in this matter. Thank you for your time and attention. And if I could say something kind of off topic, would that be okay?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
May I say something, just one more line, off topic?
Off topic?
Well, it kind of has to do with this and all my phone calls and all my emails.
Give you one more minute.
Okay, not even 1 minute. This is going to be to the county staffer who addressed me and made this personal for me. These are their exact words. You
Excuse
are
me,
just...
Andrea. I don't want to get into personal
Okay.
issues if that's.
Well, I think
okay
this is
with you.
very unprofessional, so I just wanted to...
Again, that's inappropriate at this time
Okay, thank you.
because we need time for questions of the committee to the delegation. It was an extensive information session. I appreciate the effort that you've put into it to help educate the committee on your perspective as a homeowner on unassumed subdivisions. Are there any questions to Andrea with regard to the presentation, recognizing that the staff has responded to the letter that was received, and there are additional issues that have been brought forward tonight, which they may have an opportunity to respond to as well. But committee members, do you have any questions of Andrea at this time? Councillor House.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, just a quick one. This is a great presentation. You've painted a vivid picture, so thank you for the time you've put into this. My one specific question about the services that you're receiving, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand it a little bit better. When you see a snow plow go down your street, does it have a County of Brant logo on the side?
No, it's a tractor.
It's a tractor. It's not a County of Brant truck with a blade on the front.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, the county does use tractors in some situations, so I'm not sure if the point is that if it's county doing it, we can find that out. Any other questions? Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Just again, a quick one. So the basic municipal services that you're saying you're not getting, what basic municipal service are you not receiving?
Okay. Well, according to my list here, we are not getting street lamps replaced. So every time there's a street light out, it takes about 3 months to address street lights. We're not eligible for any new upgrade or relamp. We're not allowed street cleaning. We are not, we don't get cutting grass on road allowances or drainage ditches. Let's see here, the health unit denied us testing for mosquito larvae or mosquito larvae spraying. Dead trees on the boulevard, the Canada Post mailbox. We were delayed in all kinds of road allowance and personal driveway gates, things like that, and denied permits for driveway apron maintenance.
Okay, so if I could elaborate on that just a little bit. So I'm going to suggest here, I may go on a limb, but I'm going to suggest that there are others in the county of Brant that are assumed that don't necessarily get all these. If we talk streetlights, it takes time to replace those. So I'm not sure whether you're looking for it to be replaced in a week or 2 weeks. I'm not sure what sort of time frame you're talking there, but basic streetlights around town.
Oh, I'm talking about like 6 months.
Okay, just
Yeah.
bear with me here. Okay? I'm trying to understand it from both sides of the fence here. Okay, street cleaning. Okay, again, so you're saying there has been 0 street cleaning in 10 years.
No, we've had it twice in the first year, and that's it.
Okay, and cutting the grass, you're just talking on the boulevards, correct?
That is correct, yep. Not actually on the boulevard, sorry. Like, we have drainage ditches at the end of the road, and then on Mill Street, it's like county property and then farmland. So that grows like really, really long. And so then none of that is done. Residential homeowners do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mayor Bailey.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the presenter. How many people did you say you represented? How many houses?
27.
27 houses.
27 people, homeowners.
27.
Yeah, so it would be 14 at this time. 14 houses. We only have 40.
And you've given us that list, you said, eh? Okay. I just want to comment a little bit about, some things that you've mentioned are federal things, post office boxes or federal government. You know that. Probably you know that. BME for the lighting is a privately run company, which I chair, by the way. And I sit on the health unit too. So there's different segments of your complaints that aren't county business yet. They are things that roll into the county when BME decides to do an upgrade or something. But I want to tell you, I've been the mayor for 5 years, and I don't know that I've had a bigger variety of people than the Highland Estate people. Some people don't want any streetlights. Some people don't want any sidewalks. Some people want curbs. Some people don't. These are all people that live in your survey. These aren't things I'm saying without being able to support. I have emails that support everything I'm saying. And yours is one of the most diverse, it's one of the most wonderful places to live, by the way, in the county. And I think we all know that. But you don't all want the same thing. I've had people say, we've moved to Highland Estates because we don't want streetlights, or we don't want sidewalks. We want to walk down gravel roads with our dog at night after dinner. And other people say, we've got to get rid of all the gravel because it's chipping our cars. So I have 5 years of emails, and people have come in here and sat with me and talked all afternoon about why they feel the way they do about Highland Estates. And a lot of my friends live on Highland Estates, actually. And so I don't take, what you're asking for is something completely different than that. It's not about sidewalks.
I'm asking for standards
You're
for
asking
lighting.
to be treated equally, and I get that part. But I just want people that are watching this to understand that not everyone thinks exactly the same way as you do. But I do understand that for paying your taxes, you should be getting what you think you should be getting and what you thought you were going to be getting. So as long as I make that public, thank you.
Any other questions? Andrea, we are going to hear the staff report, specifically a report upon the letters that you had sent previously. There may be some additions that'll be up to staff to respond. At the end of that, again, committee will have an opportunity to question staff, and then the staff is then going to present a generalized discussion or paper on unassumed subdivisions, processes, etc. You've introduced the topic very, very well, and I appreciate that. And it is important to receive input from the homeowner perspective, and you've done that very, very well.
I just wanted to add that the developer actually is here
Okay.
and is willing to put down more securities if required for county to assume.
Okay. So I would thank you for your presentation. Recognize that there are many requests and questions to be answered. Staff will endeavor to provide answers to that haven't been answered in the presentation that they're going to make. And if we can, we'll probably have an update in a few months.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
Now, Pam has a report, which is actually 11.2 on the agenda, and that's in response to communication that Andrea had presented before and probably augmented somewhat last minute by the presentation this evening. And I will mention to Andrea, if I'm not sure that we have, as a committee, copies of the additional information that you provided tonight, in addition to the first set of slides that you provided. So if you can provide committee members with any additional information that you presented this evening beyond what the original slide deck presented, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Okay, Pam has a report that we have copies of. I know Brian may be going to move a resolution to receive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and have a resolution to receive all three presentations at the same time. Brian, I one step ahead of you, Brian. Very few times, actually. Pam, proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. Through you, Councillor Chambers, to committee. You'll see our report this evening on Royal Highlands Estates Phase 2 subdivision as an update. We thank Andrea for her presentation, and we've provided some information to you on page 4 of 7 as per our response to her questions, including a request for reduced tax rate, request for enforcement of the subdivision agreement, and then request for new county brand subdivision agreements to include lapsing dates. So just to remind you, it's my understanding that the Royal Highlands Estates Phase 2 subdivision is currently receiving all county services, including snow plowing and garbage pickup, with the exception of street sweeping. The Royal Highlands subdivision is currently being enforced, and we are working with the developer on the existing outstanding deficiencies, albeit slowly, but we are working with the developer. As outlined, there are minimal securities that are being held, which do not account for all of the deficiencies to date. And then the third thing is that our current subdivision templates do include lapsing dates with 3 years, and they can have extensions, but those extensions are not often provided. We like to work with our developers and complete all subdivision requirements quickly. And we do now take sufficient securities and hold them until all works are completed. So that's the report, and Dawn and myself are here to answer any other questions.
Okay, the report was circulated. Perhaps the questions, we can elaborate on that on the report if there are any questions. Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Pam. So I think the short version of what your report says is the way we do things today is better than the way we did things 10 or 15 years ago when this subdivision was initiated. Is that a fair, quick summary?
Yes, through you, Councillor Chambers, or Chair Chambers, to Councillor House, that's correct. We know better today. We have different standards in place than we did in 2008. The way that we hold securities, the amount that we hold securities, our lapsing dates, and the accountability that we have with our developers and timelines is much different than it was in 2008.
If I could follow up.
Excuse me, you're out of order. This is the committee's opportunity to ask questions of the staff. Excuse me, proceed, Councillor House. Excuse me, you're out of order. If you wish to speak, you'll have an opportunity, but you are out of order. This is the committee's opportunity to question staff members. Go ahead, Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just further follow up to that. Can you educate us a little bit on the topic of securities? Because and I don't know what portion $36,000 represents of the original securities, but it doesn't seem like a big incentive. So if you could just touch on that a little bit, please.
Through the chair, I'll ask Dawn to come up and help me answer this question. Development engineering is one of the divisions in the municipality that are circulated subdivision agreements, and they provide a detailed amount for securities to be posted.
Thank you very much. Through the chair to Councillor Howes. The 36,000 that we were talking about, when we look at what we have for deficiencies, and I heard the developer talking about the pond and stuff like that, it's with the Phragmites and dealing with getting it back into what we call construction grades. And then we have the street lighting, and there were some other issues out there. It's not sufficient to cover, in my opinion, the cost of those remedial works. And what Pam alluded to, what we do now is drastically different than what we did back then in releasing of securities at certain times and stuff like that. There is a different method to do that to ensure that the monies that are held for securities, first off, when posted, are secure to do the entire works. If the developer walked, we were able to finish the job. Also, when you go to release securities, you have to maintain the amount of securities that will be able to complete the rest of the works, because typically the developer gets into a point of building permits and then you do a reduction. But it's a drastic difference now to what we do for reductions relative to what we did back in the day.
Councillor Miller.
Mr. Chair, I assure you there is a question here, but I need to just preface it a little bit if
Sure.
seek your indulgence. And I want to thank Pam for bringing forward the other report, because we have a situation that is unacceptable, untenable, and you're working to fix it. So I appreciate that. It's taking a personal pain, a lot of respect for you. But in this report, you say you talk about the economic impacts. The process of assuming a complete Island Estates Phase 2 subdivision ensures County of Brant economic responsibility, ensuring that the county and current taxpayers are not fiscally responsible for completing development conditions. I don't think there's a single person around here who thinks that current taxpayers should be fiscally responsible. We get that. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't assume these things in a reasonable amount of time, there are financial implications for the people that are there. Yes, not everything is municipal responsibility. Talk about street cleaning, stormwater pond maintenance, cutting the grass in the road allowance. Those things are municipal responsibilities. We should be doing those. But there's other things, because we don't assume it, it has implications, real implications for the people living there. And they talked about it. Andrew talked about it tonight. Upgraded mailboxes. Okay, they weren't allowed to. I don't know if they still have got them or not. They had to fight for them. Lighting repairs and upgrades. Again, they watch the lighting repairs and upgrades go on around them. Theirs were delayed. And I know they had a hard time upgrading their internet through Silo Wireless. And I know that because I was involved. And I'm looking at my emails from 2019. And Don, you were involved in this chain of emails. And I said, what's going on here? Why isn't this subdivision be assumed? And we were told we're going to get an update from 2019 from Mr. Walt. So I believe that was the information communicated to Andrea and her group, that this subdivision, we were told at that meeting back that this subdivision was going to be assumed soon. So you have to forget, when I go to the end of your report tonight, Pam, again, don't take this personal, but you say how inclusion told this in 2019. How can we be sure that it's going to be different? Thank you.
Through the chair to the councillor, the list of current deficiencies, outstanding deficiencies, are listed on page 2 of the report. I can't say, and maybe Dawn can help me out with what the deficiencies were in 2019 and what progress has been made between now and then. But I can say that the developer has been very responsive lately, and we continue to work with him on these outstanding issues.
Okay, just we're gonna have items from the. I'll bring it up until we find out that it's done. So thank you, Pam.
Yeah, keep in mind that the next report is a general a synopsis on the process and identified some of the areas that can be improved and some of the areas in the past that have not been that good and some of the improvements we've made. And I will say, and just to reiterate what Pam has just said, it's my understanding that staff and the developer are working and the progress has been very good. And that's a compliment to the staff and the developer. And hopefully we can see the end in sight. And I know Andrea is perhaps skeptical and for good reason. And hopefully we can get that concluded and to everybody's satisfaction. And I think by the conversations tonight, it is a priority and hopefully we can move forward. And I'm assuming that you are the developer and I applaud you for being here. And I apologize that you're not allowed to speak, but we appreciate the efforts that you're putting forward to work with staff, and we just need to get this done, and it takes two. So that having been said, are there any other questions of Pam with regard to the Highland Estates subdivision, which is different than the Highland Estates? There may be other questions that come forward as Don presents the next report, and he can proceed to do that now. Don. Report, this would be 11.1, which is usually before 11.2, but in today's world, we're going backwards. And just as Don comes forward to make his report, keep in mind that when there are negotiations between the county and a developer, there may be legal aspects associated with that, which should be an in-camera issue. So questions and comments, etc., if you can just avoid delving into perhaps legal issues that are better spoken in camera. So just a word of caution. Pam, you're going to introduce Don, and there we go. Proceed.
Through you, Chair Chambers, thank you. And thank you for bringing up the request to talk about unassumed subdivisions around the table tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce, many of you know, Don Cunningham, our Director of Development Engineering. He has some staff with him here tonight, and our hope is to go through some education on the process of unassumed subdivisions, kind of where we are with legacy subdivisions, and where we are with current subdivisions. So I'll pass it over to Don.
Thank you, Pam. Through the chair to the committee, I'll get into the presentation here. So we'll be talking about the unassumed subdivisions and the process that has happened in the past and going forward. So I'm just going to bring up this slide here, and as you can see, this is a breakdown of the different steps that goes into from subdivision agreement registration down to subdivision final completion certificate issuance. These are big titles. Developers don't like them. We have a hard time using them as well, but it gets us through it. And so there's many different steps to this process. So council has asked staff to prepare a report and provide information on the county brand unassumed subdivisions. With that direction, staff are providing the following information on the unassumed subdivision process, a list of unassumed subdivisions in the county of Brant to date, a description of current challenges which prolong subdivisions from being assumed in the municipality, and actions which development services staff are currently undertaking to proactively work with developers to assume subdivisions. The unassumed subdivision process. The subdivision process can be complicated and take many years to complete. After council approves a subdivision and there are no appeals to the Ontario Land Tribunal, there are still many processes to go through. Once the subdivision agreement is registered, the developer's main goal is to expeditiously complete the works required in order that building permits can be issued. It should be noted that prior to amalgamation, the former town of Paris and the 5 townships utilized different subdivision agreement templates, which also differ from the one utilized by the amalgamated county of Brant. This is noted as the county still has subdivisions that staff administer, which were created by these former municipalities. Since amalgamation, the county of Brant has also utilized several different types of subdivision agreement templates, which are still being administered to this day. With these different registered subdivision agreements, the verbiage relative to assumption is not consistent. However, the end goal of having a developer complete all their obligations prior to assumption is common to each subdivision agreement. Within each subdivision agreement, developers are usually required to complete a first interim completion certificate. So that's the second line, which is issued once county staff have inspected the works and any deficiencies remediated to the county satisfaction. The works typically associated with the issuance of the certificate are as follows: water mains, sanitary and storm sewers, granular road base, curbs, base asphalt, regulatory and road name signage, stormwater management facilities, and sewage pumping stations if they're required. These works are often referred to in the development industry as underground works. Along with the above mentioned works, the developer must also provide the county with certain documentation such as progress payment certificates, statutory declarations, red line as-built drawings, lot servicing records, CCTV reports, asset management data, etc. With the issuance of the first interim completion certificate, the subdivisions are then building permit eligible. The warranty period for works associated with the first interim completion certificate is for 2 years. During this 2-year period, the developer is responsible for the maintenance or repair of these works. And those are the works I'm referring to before under the first interim. Once the completion of the warranty period for the first interim completion certificate, a developer is to request the county's issuance of the first interim completion certificate. When such a request is received, county staff inspect the associated works, and once any required remedial works are completed to the county satisfaction, the county assumes those works by way of issuing the first interim final completion certificate. So now we're down into the 4th line. Council has granted delegated authority to applicable county staff to approve the final acceptance and assumption of subdivision works via the delegation authority bylaw 7322. I must note that this report quoted bylaw 5023, but it was come to my attention that was only for an amendment that was not relevant to the subdivision acceptance and assumption, so my apologies for that. Typically, once the county has assumed the works associated with the first interim final completion certificate, the developer then completes the remaining works for the subdivision, which can include the following: driveway aprons, boulevards, sidewalks, street trees, street lighting, lot grading, surface asphalt, parks, etc. These works are often referred to in the industry as above ground or surface or top out works. Along with the above mentioned works, the developer must also provide the county with certain documentation similar to those provided in the first interim completion certificate. The developer then requests the county issuance of the third interim completion certificate. So we kind of jump down here to, on what line, third line from the bottom. The warranty period for the works associated with the third interim completion certificate is for 2 years, and during this time, the developer is responsible for the maintenance and repair of those works. Most of the registered subdivision agreements do have a clause regarding a second interim completion certificate. However, the issuance of these certificates has only been used sparingly and for special circumstances, such as completion of external works, example, reconstruction of existing municipal roads, extension of trunk servicing, construction of parks. Due to the requirement of having an additional 2-year warranty period for the second interim completion certificate, most developers do not want to have this additional time added to their developments, as most developers want to complete their subdivisions as soon as possible. Upon the completion of the warranty period for the third interim completion certificate, the developer is requested the county's issuance of the subdivision final completion certificate, which is also known as assumption, and provides the county with required documentation. These can include confirmation that all lot grading certifications have been approved, finalized as-built drawings, because so far we've been only dealing with red lines, progress payment certificates, statutory declarations, and asset management data, etc. When such a request is received, the county staff inspect those associated works. Once any required remedial works are completed to the county's satisfaction, the county then issues the subdivision final completion certificate, which relieves the developer of their obligations to the registered subdivision agreement. It is at this time that the county releases all remaining securities and returns the certificate of insurance to the developer. As noted above, Council has granted delegated authority to applicable county staff to approve the final acceptance and assumption of subdivision works via the delegated authority bylaw. A list of unassumed subdivisions in the county of Brant to date has been provided on the back of my report. Since amalgamation, the county has assumed 45 subdivisions. Currently, there are 35 unassumed subdivisions in the county, and I'm going to say that may seem a lot, but a lot of them are paracentric, and they're being built out very quickly. I just got to make that mention. For most of those subdivisions, developers are actively working on completing their respective developments, with only a few where the developers are delinquent or very slow on completing their obligations relative to the registered subdivision agreements. Those, what I call legacy subdivisions, are as follows. We have the Ackland subdivision on Meisner Road West, which contains 5 lots. Barnes Estates Phase 2, which is a 30-lot development on Franklin Way. We have Hunter subdivision, Phase 3, Stage 2 and 3, which is 36 lots consisting of Augusta Street and Finley Street. Painter subdivision out in Onondaga of 7 lots, and the Royal Highland Estates Phase 2 of 40 lots. Unfortunately, most of the above noted legacy subdivisions, the county currently does not hold enough securities to complete the outstanding and remedial works associated with these subdivisions. Staff are expending much effort in trying to engage with those developers to gain compliance and have them complete the outstanding and remedial works. County staff have been able to communicate with the majority of these developers of the legacy subdivisions and have recently been seeing compliance for a number of them, including Royal Highlands. Noting that such communications and compliance is not at a desirous speed. Staff also note that for the past year, we have been trying to gain compliance with the developer of a condo site, and the efforts have taken much time from senior staff and residents. We meet monthly with them, and just unfortunately, when we have these same situations with these sites with lack of the security, and we run into these situations, and to get compliance is very difficult. For those subdivisions where the developer is not complying and completing the outstanding remedial work, staff have and will continue to utilize the mechanisms provided in the registered subdivision agreements to complete those works on a cost recovery basis with the developer. Staff know that the developer does not provide payment to the county upon demand to recover said costs, that the county may need to take legal action against such developers. This will have its own challenges in that the county may not be able to fully recover these costs, as well as a significant amount of staff, resource, and time involved with the court actions. As Pam alluded to, there's a new subdivision agreement template has recently been created that does stipulate deadlines for completion of a subdivision, that being 3 years from the date of registration to assumption with an opportunity for extension. This 3-year timeline and the opportunity for extension is a standard process among many Ontario municipalities. Due to much faster build-outs of the newer urban subdivision, staff anticipate that the developer will be able to achieve full build-out within these timelines. In summary, subdivisions cannot be assumed until all conditions within a subdivision are completed. Until that time, the subdivisions remain the responsibility of the developer. County staff are actively working with the development community to complete their works so the municipality can assume the subdivisions. So that's part of the unassumed subdivision process, but there was another part to the report regarding challenges and such. And so with that, I'd like to present Jason Tilmello and Jonathan Stum. Jason Tilmello is the supervisor of field services. Jason has been with the county since 2017 and has previously held the positions of field services inspector and development engineering reviewer technician within the development engineering division. So I've had the pleasure of overseeing all this time. Jason supervises the lot grading technician, the field services technician, and the field inspector within the development engineering division. This group of staff are responsible for administering the site alteration bylaw, inspection of development construction, review of lot grading plans, and issuance of lot grading certifications. Jonathan Stum is a lot grading technician. Jonathan has been with the county since 2019. Jonathan is responsible for the review of lot grading plans related to building permits and the issuance of lot grading certifications. So I'll call him on this time.
Thank you, Don. So good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Tullamello. I'm Supervisor of Field Services at the County of Brant. I'm here to discuss the topic of lot grading certifications, as they have contributed to delaying the assumption process. So why is lot grading process in place? The process is in place as we wanted to move the review of lot grading from developers' consultants to the county in order to hold them accountable to our standards and best practices. Before this process was in place, many engineering consultants were certifying lots with significant grading and drainage issues. How does this impact assumption? A requirement of final assumption is that all lots are to be certified. This means that the grading of each lot needs to be as per the approved plans, and the county needs to review and accept them prior to assumption. So why has it been challenging? A requirement of final assumption, many homeowners are not aware of this requirement and are eager to install above ground features that cause the certifications to fail. This causes significant delays in the assumption process and aggravates county residents and developers. So what have we done to improve the process? Where possible, we have eased the requirements, which has allowed several lots to pass certification. Now, if we identify a deficiency, the deficiency is or will be an issue. Going forward, we know what works is educating developers. But more importantly, ensuring developers implement a process where they educate homeowners at occupancy. As such, we have held meetings to educate developers, and going forward, we will be highlighting this issue at all future pre-construction meetings. I'll now pass it over to John Stum. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, my name is Jonathan Stum. I'm the lot grading technician at the county. I'm going to be bringing up 5 examples of some challenges and concerns that we've seen in subdivisions where they're looking for lot grading certification. So photo number 1, the issue is the patio and the raised planter on the property line. Half of the drainage swale has been blocked, and the drainage would be directed onto the neighboring property as it's currently being blocked on this property. If the neighbor were to install a similar item, the side yard drainage would be impeded and has the potential to back up and pond against the residence or in landscape features in the rear yard. There's also buried pipe that is coming out from under the raised planter bed there as well. This buried pipe in the side yard swale has a potential to cause drainage issues, as if the pipe becomes blocked with sediment or debris or water freezes during the wintertime, it has a potential to back up and outlet out of the downspouts. The county's solution to this issue would be that the patio and raised planter would need to be removed a minimum 0.45 meters from the property line, so that the approved drainage design could be followed for the lot and the neighboring property would not be negatively affected by the installation. Photo number 2 is works beginning prior to lot grading certification or building permits on a property. So the issues and concerns of this are installation of items were completed prior to the lot grading certification or building permit. This has a high potential to block swales and drainage features, causing grading issues, including sending drainage to other properties or causing ponding on the current property. If items are not installed as per county standards in the grading designs, they may require removal or relocation on the property. So the county solution to this situation was a meeting on site occurred and multiple phone conversations with the landscaper and pool contractor to discuss grading concerns and solutions. Work on the property was halted due to the amount of work completed without lot grading certification or building permits. The county required a survey of the property to confirm existing elevations. A revised engineering design was required to confirm that the original grading design could be achieved. The grading plan was approved once we received a new plan that we could review and an inspection of the property. Photo number 3 is blocked rear yard swales. A deck, so the items that are concerning of this are a deck with boards extending down to grade is blocking the swale flow between multiple properties. The drainage will be slowed or stopped in front of the deck, potentially causing ponding or saturated areas in front. This area is also conveying swale flows between multiple properties. If the swale is impacted, drainage could be directed to another lot or to an area on the property or another property that could cause damage. The solution to this was that the boards extending down to the swale were required to be removed so the swale was not blocked. And the swale was required to be visible under the deck to confirm that drainage was not directed to other properties or that it was damaged during deck construction and can flow to the designed area. Photo number 4 is indicating the widening of driveways and walkways. Most of the frontage of this property is covered with hard surfaces, which has increased the width of the driveway apron to access these areas. This then reduces on-street parking in a subdivision. If many people do this along the street parking could be substantially reduced. The county's solution to this is the extension of the driveway in the boulevard would be required to match the width approved in the subdivision design, as on-street parking is considered in the review of the subdivision. This would allow for the walkway to be kept for its purpose of being a walkway and not utilized as an additional parking spot on the property. The walkway and ribbon extension to the driveway would not cause an issue for grading unless it would be extending into the 0.45 meters from property line to allow for drainage to be directed to the roadway. The last item is photo 5, and this is walkways that are being installed to the property lines. So this, all drainage through the side yard would be directed to the property on the right side where there is no walkway installed currently. And this could potentially cause saturated side yards and forcing one resident to address all the drainage that was supposed to be directed to between two properties. If the neighbor beside would install the same walkway, drainage would be blocked in the side yard, would cause ponding behind the walkway, and when enough ponding would occur, it would overflow the walkways. In side yards, there's a lot of window wells that we see on properties, and the majority of the time they're cut flush to grade with the walkways. And so if water's ponding behind and then would overflow the walkway, there's a high likelihood that drainage would be flowing into the window wells, potentially causing flooding of properties and other related issues. The county solution to this would be that the walkway would be required to be removed a minimum 0.45 meters from the property line to allow for drainage to function as designed and the water to flow freely to the roadway. Thank you.
Through your chief chambers, that is our presentation on unassumed subdivision processes, on our legacy unassuming subdivisions, and on some current challenges that we are having with unassuming subdivisions of that 35 list that Don has identified. So I'd just like to thank Don and Jason and Jonathan for the information, and we're all here to answer any questions.
Well, let's see if there are any questions. Councilor Pierce has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, yeah, I think this was an education for everybody with this information, so I appreciate that. A couple questions I have. When you refer to them as legacy subdivisions, are these subdivisions that were created prior to amalgamation? Am I getting that correct? Or what is a legacy subdivision?
Through the chair, I'm going to ask Don to come up and answer that. These are subdivisions that have not gone through the current County of Brant subdivision process, right, which includes our 3-year lapsing date and securities. Okay. Don, do you have any more information on that?
Thank you, Pam. Through the chair, Councillor Pierce. So typically these are developments that have been around for, probably greater than 10 years or around there. And some of them have had their life with four municipalities. We have some from the former Township of Brantford days. We have Hunter Subdivision, which is from the former Township of Burford, and they're from 1993. So they're quite a bit older, and sometimes have these older templates or subdivision agreement templates that were used for their agreements.
Okay, so if I could just expand on that. So that's fine that the subdivision may have, excuse me, may have started prior to that. But from what I'm hearing from what Pam said there, these are ones specifically that do not have that new deadline, so to speak, correct?
Correct.
And how long has that new deadline been in effect?
Where I think we're just implementing it now. Like I believe the NIF subdivision will be the first one that we use this new template.
Okay, so I got another question here. So that means that that entire list of what you gave us at the bottom of that report, none of those have time limits on them.
I think some of them do, but I'm not sure which ones. Not all of them. That's for sure. Yeah. Pam says she's got some information here.
I can help add a little bit more information to that. Some of that list of 35 do include lapsing dates, 3-year lapsing dates, and we are holding sufficient securities. Most of them do. We started that process when I arrived here at the county about 4 years ago.
Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to switch now to the grading approvals. If I look at just one of the subdivisions in my ward, it's been built for 5, 6 years, 7 years. And my understanding is there's still some lots there that are having issues with grading approvals. Is it not something that we can control, or is it a provincial thing that why can't we confirm and approve the grading before occupancy?
I'm going to ask Jonathan or Jason to come on up and help me answer that question. Don went through the process of our subdivision assumption, and maybe they can provide some more details.
Thank you, Pam. Through the chair to Councillor Pierce, and thank you for your question. So it is possible that you can have lot grading certification prior to occupancy, but there are some challenges associated with that. And speaking with developers and bringing this topic up, which we have done, we have received some, I would say, overwhelming feedback that prefers that they don't have lot grading certification prior to occupancy. As an example, topsoiling and sodding properties at a point of occupancy is something that is very challenging given forecasted work that is to occur in the future. There are other reasons as well, and I would be happy to provide you with an email and responding to your question with a more robust summary of all the items that that developers where developers would prefer not to have certifications prior to occupancy.
Okay, and I appreciate that, but if I may, excuse me, if I may be blunt, sorry for the developers, but this is causing us a lot of problems, and it's causing the homeowners a lot of problems. If I'm living in my house for 3, 4, 5 years, I'm going to want to put a shed out back. I'm going to want to put a patio out back. Why would I not want that in my own home? But I can't do that because I don't have my grading approval yet, which to no fault of the homeowner, it falls back on the developer. So is this not something that they would prefer not to do? I would suggest we as the county would prefer them to do that. So is there any way that we can force them to do that?
We can definitely look into that. I think that we can possibly implement that in our procedures, and it is something that our division is motivated to implement. We have had discussions, and we continue to have discussions. The topic of lot grading certifications being such an issue is one that has arisen very recently. It's not something that we have encountered to this significance in previous years. So it's something that we're actively discussing right now, and we have continual discussions that need to occur. But it's definitely something that we're looking into.
Okay, I would appreciate a follow up on that, just how that's going. And I'm sure it doesn't help when you've got the province allowing 2 feet between houses. Not literally, but you know what I mean. It gets more difficult as the lots are getting smaller, the distance between homes are getting smaller. I appreciate that, but I mean, we need to do everything we can to force that to happen prior to occupancy, then we don't get into any of these issues. Thank you.
I'm not sure when Councillor Bell had his hand up, but I see his hand is up, so I'm going to go to Councillor Bell before Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It was just before John Pierce put his hand up. Through you to the presenters, thank you for sharing this presentation. It's really helpful. Like Councillor Pierce, I get a lot of queries from people around the issue of lot grading certification. And I think, in fact, one of them rang up last week and said, do you know that the county has got a 2 to 3 year wait list? They put the whole blame on the county. And when I spoke with Don Cunningham, he explained that actually the issue lies not with the county, but with the developer. So developer education is pretty much a key to moving this agenda forward. And although they're fast-moving developments, they are very big developments. So when you compare them to that list of 5 rogue or legacy estates that Don had earlier, we're talking about many, many hundreds of houses here. And so getting to grips with this is really important. And what I did like was that for each of the problem areas that you brought forward, you offered practical county solutions. I like that. But have we made them known to all the residents that have got issues? And have we made them known to developers? And are the developers taking them, embracing them, and sharing them with the people that they've sold houses to?
Through you, Chair Chambers, to Councillor Bell, that's a great question. You know, as the speed of development increases in the county of Brant and we have more subdivisions, people are moving in quicker timelines, you know, we are getting those development pressures with timelines from builders. This is becoming a process which staff have been putting time into. So there's a number of things that we have been doing. First and foremost, as was indicated through the presentation, is education and training to our developers and homeowners. So you can imagine Jonathan spends a lot of time on the telephone talking to property owners about the process. We have a development information session coming up with our developers in October, and a presentation will be done to them on best practices. We do have some developers that are assuming subdivisions very well. Those are usually the developers that have agreements in place with each of their homeowners. Some of them hold securities so that things aren't happening on the property until the whole subdivision is assumed. So we're providing that information to all of our developers to provide some best practices. Any other things that I have missed? Oh, we are talking with our planning department as well to implement some more flexibility in our comprehensive zoning bylaw that's coming up. So some of those walkways, some of the opportunities in the backyard, we're providing a little bit more flexibility. Is that it?
Thank you.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and great report, staff. I'm just glad to see that Fox Hill Estate is not listed in the unassumed subdivisions after a number of years, but I'm disappointed. I still got 2 in Ward 5 that are here, Barnes's and Painter Road. I'm not sure it's a question or a comment, but I also did hear staff say some of these things done in backyard were done without a building permit. So don't blame all the developer and everything else on the lot grading because the homeowners didn't get a building permit.
And that's noted. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the report itself, you walk us through the process, stage 1, stage 2, all that. But nowhere in the report did I see how council is informed of the list. I did not know that Hunter subdivision was on that list. And I always thought it was odd when I was talking to people on August Street that they always said they were missing the final layer of asphalt on their street for years. And I said, well, that's weird. Well, why is that? Well, the developer hasn't done it. So at the same time, the one that Andrea come forth with tonight there, Highland Estates, I thought back in 2019 we had dealt with it. I did not know. If I had known, I would have pushed a little bit harder. So how does council get informed of these these things, these unassumed subdivisions, because I think it's something we need to be aware of, especially as they happen in our wards.
Through you, Chair Chambers, that's an excellent question. Um, you can imagine as staff are having so many development pressures, our priorities are moving new development forward. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking at these legacy subdivisions and also working with the developers to move them along. We have been with, I'll use Foxwood condos as a great example. We have been meeting with their developer and the condo board for about a year. We meet every month. We talk about the deficiencies list and we talk about where we are at. But you can imagine that takes a lot of staff resources. We are starting to make this a priority in development services on these legacy subdivisions. And we're happy to report back to council perhaps every quarter, maybe every 6 months on the progress of them.
Any final questions? Councillor Oakley.
Through the chair. So I first of all, I just want to mirror that I support Councillor Pierce's statement that perhaps seeing that these lot gradings and things happen ahead of time, it is an inconvenience for certain, but I would also argue it's an inconvenience that some homeowners, like what was presented to us today, are dealing with subdivisions that had agreements written when I was in the 6th grade still not being complete. So that's a little problematic and a little inconvenient for the homeowner. So in sort of building off of what was said in that presentation as well, there was some mention of some works having to be redone because inspection took so long that things had to be redone. In that regards, are we lacking staff? Do we need more staff to cover this? Where can we shore up that deficiency so that we ourselves aren't being negligent in helping move this forward?
Through you, Chair Chambers, I'm going to ask Dawn to come up and help me answer that. Might be a good opportunity, Dawn, to provide some information to committee on some of the works that are ongoing with lighting, in particular in the Royal Highlands Phase 2 subdivision as an example.
Thank you, Pam. Through the chair to Councillor Oakley. So I'm going to have to ask you to repeat your last part there about your question.
So part of what was mentioned in the presentation about Royal Highland Estates were that some works, I believe street lighting was mentioned. There was a couple other things that works had been done, inspections got delayed, and by the time inspections were done, standards had to be changed, so work had to be redone. If we are if we're lacking staff to be able to do our part in a timely fashion, so the developer doesn't have to redo things, and then we're constantly chasing each other's tails. If we need more staff, what resources we might need to make sure that we're on top of things.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to start with applauding council because we're now actually up to a better staff complement. Back in these, I keep calling these legacy ones, there were 2 staff. There was me and there was Alex Don. That was it. And we were doing all the development applications and all the inspections and all the administration. So just put the staff comment now, it's a lot better. So as to being able to address all those lot grading, certification requests and stuff like that, and inspection stuff, we have actually staff assigned for inspections. So again, I applaud council for allowing us to have that comment. It makes my life a lot easier. To get to the other one about the inspections, I mean, there is a policy and a process in place. When the developer lets us know, and I didn't say it in the report, they can do all the works they want. They need to inform us when they are done those works so that we can go out in a timely manner to inspect them. There's like timelines to address it and then a re-inspection, stuff like that. So they have to work with us on that. And if they go out there and there's so many developments, as you can appreciate in the county, we don't go driving around looking for these. They got to come to us and say, I've done my crack sealing, or I've worked on the parging for storm sewers. I need you to come out and inspect it, and then we will make arrangements within a timely manner to go out and do that. I've always said it, and I've been here for all of them. I don't know if anybody knows here. I've been here before amalgamation, and so I've done them all. I've done every single subdivision in the county of Brant. So we don't like sitting on them. We want them assumed. So when I talk about that, it's not about the developer wanting to get out of here, finish off the developments. It's us. We need to move on and keep going. There's more coming down the line. So I don't know if I answered your question, but we try to do everything we can in a timely manner, given what we have for our work complement our workload. But we try to do it. I would like to take this opportunity, Council Chambers, to talk a bit to Councillor Pierce about that lock grading certification and the timing, and his comment about prior to occupancy. So I champion that. So when I talk to the developers, I tasked them with that. I said, think outside the box. We got a process in place right now, and this requirement here of when you do your certification. Think outside the box. If we were to do lot grading certification before occupancy, how would that look for you? What works would you have to do to get there? And could the county live with it? So can the county live with not having sod down on these lots? Or the homeowner themselves, could they live with that? Driveways not completed, these sorts of things. Where does it land with that? And one thing we need to be cognizant of is we're talking about the lot, and the building code is in play with the lot. So when we're talking with our building division staff, there is certain criteria that has to be done for occupancy. What we're talking about for having a lot that is graded to a state where the homeowner can enjoy it is not typically at occupancy. It's usually afterwards, and there's reasons for that. Jason alluded to a more robust response to that one, but we can do that. Like it is, it's challenging to do it to get it to that state prior to occupancy is what I'm getting at. So, but I'm not done with it. We still have meetings with the development liaison group and the development industry, and I'm looking for a task from them to come back to us. The education portion of it, we also have approached the developers. Some get it, and they do it very, very well. And you will see them if you drive around. You'll see that there's no sheds, decks, pools, fences, and then there's other developments where all that stuff is crammed in, sometimes without a building permit, and that's difficult. So I've had those conversations with those developers. Some of them are very amicable to looking back how they do their purchase and sales agreements and writing it in, getting securities. Others will tell you that is bad business practice, and we are not tasking our customers with that kind of burden, so we won't be doing it. And that's from the top down. So it's that full range of what we're getting with some, trying to work with the county and work with their customers and the residents in getting a product to them that everybody's happy with. So hopefully I haven't taken up too much of your time on that.
I just wanted to add one thing as we're talking about certification prior to assumption. As soon as I sat down, I thought of it, and this is in response to through the chair to Councillor Pierce's question previously. So one of the main reasons why developers, builders do not want lot grading certification prior to assumption is the same reason many new homeowners do not want this process as well. And I can speak on that because I just purchased a few years ago a new build home in Paris myself. One of the issues is that if we do require sod as an example for the lot grading certification, one thing that we're not able to do is carry out lot grading certification inspections when the snow is on the ground. So that really halts occupancy for a quarter of the year. So if you can appreciate, a young family looking to move into a new house prior to Christmas, if there's snow on the ground December 1st, they're sitting on it until potentially March, April, maybe even May if we get a really bad year before they can move into their home. So that is one issue. So it's not just the developers and the builders that are not favoring lot grading certification prior to occupancy. It may also be the majority of new home buyers. Thank you.
Okay, committee members, we've had a wonderful discussion with many questions and 3 presentations that have been very informative and educational. Again, we could go on and on and on. Development, nobody said development was easy, and it is complicated. And I think, speaking personally, it has been an education session for me to get beyond when we approve a subdivision. It just doesn't stop there. in many ways, it just begins. And we've heard from the homeowner perspective through Andrea, and with very valid concerns. We've heard from staff how they attempt to deal with that. Unfortunately, we haven't heard from the developer part of it, and I know there are issues that they have with the process as well that can be difficult to deal with. And at the end of the day, I think we need to try to ensure both the developers, staff, and the homeowners that this process is done in a timely, perhaps I should say a more timely and a manner in which more people can be satisfied with the new homes that they have purchased and wish to live in. We've had 3 presentations. Getting back to what Councillor Coleman was alluding to originally, we need to deal with these presentations. First of all, Andrea's the delegation with regard to Highland Estates from the homeowner perspective. How do you wish to deal with that? Councillor Coleman.
Move to receive, Mr. Chambers.
And that's seconded by Mayor Bailey. The motion is to receive the information, and I'm assuming that staff understands, and I think the committee understands, that I don't want to have Andrea to go out of here thinking that her concerns have fallen on deaf ears. So I would like staff to follow up with that. And I know progress has been made in many ways, primarily because of what Andrea has brought forward, and the developer is working with staff. And I know there's hopefully those issues can be resolved in a manner that is perhaps more satisfactory than it has been. So the motion is to receive with the understanding that it doesn't end there. It perhaps begins, and hopefully the conclusion will occur sooner rather than later. Andrea's presentation did bring up some questions, and I'm hoping staff can connect with Andrea to answer some of those questions that she's brought forward. And some of the issues with taxes, et cetera, we may want to deal with that at the council level. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor with regard to the delegation that it be received, and that motion is carried unanimously. The 2 reports that staff presented, first Pam's report on Highland Estates, and then Don's report with his the help of his staff. How do you wish to deal with those reports? We'll deal with them both at the same time. Councillor Pierce.
Move to receive.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Oakley. It's moved and received. Again, thank you for the presentation. And if committee and council can be of assistance anyway to get these situations resolved in a more timely manner, then lean on us to get that done. And we'll lean on you to ensure that some of the processes that have been identified are followed through on. So all those in favor?
Mr. Chair.
That motion is, sorry, Councillor.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I think the report from staff on the Highland Estates actually has some recommendations. I don't think it's just a matter of receiving it for information. I think there are some line items there that we have to vote on. One of them was around changing the bylaw, changing the taxes.
And I alluded to that, Councillor Bell, that those are issues that we need to bring up beyond the issue of receiving Andrew's report. So the motion is to receive. The motion is to receive. The motion is to receive. If you have an amendment, then you can make an amendment. But I'm prepared to call the question. If you want to add something afterward, the floor will be open to you. But the motion is to receive. And I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Is there anything else that you wish to do with the presentations at this time? Councillor Bell.
Yeah, just to get clarity on what you mean by council will deal with it, because I thought the staff report on the Highlands estate was quite specific. It was quite, it had 3 recommendations. One of them was around taxes. One of them was around changing bylaws. Are you suggesting that we bring that back to the next council meeting for approval?
And that's just exactly what I said prior to that. The issues that are brought forward, we don't want to lose sight of them, and they can be brought forward to either a committee meeting or a council meeting. So,
but isn't this
moving on.
committee meeting?
Moving on, you understand that these can be brought up at the council meeting, but nothing's on the floor right now, Councillor Bell. And I understand that you don't want to lose sight of them, so they will be dealt with at the appropriate time. So, communications, there are none. There are no other items of other business. There's no in-camera session. Mayor Bailey?
12.1, Mr. Chair, to receive the advisory committee, agricultural advisory committee.
Yes, sorry, I jumped over that one. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Coleman. Any questions with regard to that report? All those in favor? There, we've done that item of business. So we're at the portion of the meeting now where we can adjourn this meeting and recognize that the next planning committee meeting is October 10th. If anyone wishes to bring anything forward at that time with regard to anything that has occurred previously, that is the time to do it. I declare the meeting adjourned.